Jai Sri Shashidanan to everyone, and a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. On behalf of Manav Utthan Sewa Samiti, on behalf of all Sant Mahatmas, on behalf of all the devotees, I would like to welcome you all with immense pleasure to yet another episode of the talk show Universal Revival Journey. And I especially welcome all the new aspirants who have joined us from different parts of the world. So today we have a wonderful opportunity to gain an insight into spirituality. Science provides us an understanding of how things function, and spirituality explains why. So, in the modern world, with the advancements of science, knowledge, technology, it is vital that we delve into the spiritual knowledge to maintain a harmonious way of life. As the great philosopher Socrates said, man know thyself. And many wise people have come into this world, have taught us mankind to look within ourselves to achieve a state of bliss. Once again, I extend my warm welcome to all of you to this platform of Manav Utthan Sewa Samiti, which is a socio spiritual charitable organization. And the main motive and the main motto of the organization is to uplift the mankind from the morass of ignorance and superstition through spiritual discourses. They have been preaching, they have been spreading love, kindness, humanity, and goodwill. Today, in this modern day and age, we all talk about economy in a sense that we talk about the glorified economy, which is survival. And in this world of survival, revival is very, very important. It is very essential. So, to give a further input into the spiritual revival, I would now like to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Rita Sharma. She's from Delhi, a place wherein people have content hearts and lively nature. She has been associated with Manav Utthan Sewa Samiti since her early childhood. She has spent her life in different parts of the world and is now settled in India. Her academic life has spanned across biological sciences, with specializing in botany, anthropology, and concluding with a PhD in cell biology from Germany. She has also dabbled in computer programming before finally settling her career into science diplomacy. So I'd now like to hand over this platform to Dr. Rita. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tina, for your kind introduction. As you mentioned, I've been associated with Manav Utthan Sewa Samiti for as long as I can remember. And one of the key messages of this organization has been about Sadbhawana. Sadbhavana is a Sanskrit word which is divided into two parts, Sad and Bhavna. Sad means good and Bhavna means feelings. So, translated into English, it simply means goodwill. Goodwill has been widely accepted to be the principle of being good in our societies. Its significance can be understood if we think of it as the will to good. Will is something that's been given to us by God, the freedom for us to choose what we want to do in life. Life puts us into different situations. It shows us different paths, but it's up to us which path do we want to take forward. So that's, and when we freely, out of our own will, we do good towards others selflessly, so it's will to good. At the same time, some other people interpret goodwill as the will of God. Everything good we do is considered to be godly. That some, it's, God wants us to be good in life. So they considered whatever good they're spreading in the world is the will of God. It's a really beautiful word and a concept, because in this, the individual's will is subordinated to the will of the greater good. It's also known to be a touchstone which has the potential to transform humanity. We see it in different aspects of our lives. For example, it produces an atmosphere of true cooperation. It has huge problem solving abilities. For example, in case, if there's any conflict, be it within our families, in the neighborhood, in societies, or even between the nations, then if there is mutual goodwill, then there's bound to be a good solution to the problem as well. What happens during goodwill is that our mental, emotional, and biological bodies are in balance with each other. And when we're in that state of balance, then we're able to also develop into good human relationships. So the question arises, if goodwill is known to be so good, that it's considered to be a code of conduct, not just in one society, one part of the world, but in the entire world, then why is it not that prevalent in our world? Why do we see so much hatred all around us? For this, we need to understand that when we're born into this world, then we begin with our materialistic journeys. At the same time, we're also continuing with our spiritual journeys. And when we don't realize that fact, then we're not developing ourselves in the spiritual journey. For our materialistic life, we've got so many people who are just prodding us on, be it our family, friends, colleagues, peers, whoever touches us during life. They're just pushing us towards accomplishments in our materialistic world. But there's nobody specific who would give us that prod to evolve or develop ourselves in the spiritual world, right? That's where the spiritual master and these kind of congregations have the benefit. And I mean, goodwill has been studied not just within the scientific within it has been studied within scientific sphere, but also within the spiritual sphere. If we consider it scientifically, then it's been studied through the different our responses, our biological responses to our external environments. And one way it's been studied is through the study of hormones. And what that means is, these are basically, hormones are basically chemicals within our bodies that are produced in glands in different parts of the bodies, and they act as messengers. And from the place of their production, they travel to different parts of the bodies where they perform a function or they trigger a particular function. And a lot of these hormones have been associated with positive emotions. To cite a few examples, oxytocin is specifically known to give us the feeling of goodwill. It's considered so important that it's been used to treat anxiety, depression, and even acute pain. Another hormone is dopamine, which is really interesting because it's known as the hormone of rewards. So if you ever hit a goal, or you reach your target, whatever target you had set for yourself, then it's production in the body. Because of that, our brain tells us that you've done a good job, right? And studies have shown that even if we do an act of kindness, an, this particular hormone, dopamine is produced naturally within our bodies, right? And studies go to the extent to even say that even if we have one thought of kindness, then also there is a production of dopamine, which really loosens up our nervous system and even trickles down to the beating of our heart. Another hormone is serotonin, which is specifically known to give us the feeling of well-being and satisfaction. I'm sure all of you would have done one or the other act of kindness in your lives. If you think back and think through, how did it make you feel when you did that act of kindness? How did you really feel at that point of time? And compare that feeling with when you achieved something in the materialistic world, in the outer world. For the materialistic world, you would have felt elated, you would have felt so joyous, happy. It's an achievement that you would have wanted to share with other people. It was very external, but what you would have found is that over time it grew, its importance grew less because you had another target to reach. There were other achievements to be happy about. And if you consider the other one, when you did an act of kindness, it's something that gave you inner peace. It made you closer to yourself. It may not be something that would have, you would have wanted to boast about to others. And it would have brought you closer to even God. Science tells us that as kids, we are wired to be kind individuals, but due to our external environments, due to their influences, we lose touch with that inherent ability. We lose touch with that feeling of giving to others or that goodwill. And this is really important because through these acts of kindness, we really try to bring that inherent ability onto the fore by sharing the love of God with everybody. So it's our attempt to reconnect with something that we've forgotten. But the key aspect is that these feelings like goodwill are sustains in our lives only when we evolve spiritually. God's will becomes more prominent in our lives. It doesn't just remain as a fleeting feeling. And what I mean by fleeting feeling is that, you may have you may do acts of kindness. It's not like we never do them. We do them, but we may have been encouraged by somebody to do it. Somebody tells us they're going over the weekend to do some volunteering work, or there is an opportunity to work with the underprivileged children or the elderly, and you feel compelled, you feel inside that no, I have to do this. But when you've done it for a day, for a few hours, then you go back to your lives. It's not something that stays with you throughout. It's not permanent in your lives. And I mean, this feeling is also generated during the seasons. There are so many festivals in this world, and most of them were associated with goodwill, giving alms to people who need it so that they can enjoy the festive season as well. But then it remains from festival to festival. It doesn't remain permanently within us. That development really happens if we are evolving spiritually as well. I'll try to illustrate that through an example. We see all kinds of discriminations in our lives, from day to day. Whether it's based on gender, it's based on caste, creed, region, which part of the region we come from, which religion we belong to. And more recently, we've heard about the Black Lives Movement, where uh, people have been outraged by the painful killing of George Floyd, and people came to the fore because it's something that really touched our hearts. That we wanted to, talk against it. We wanted to bring that to the notice. And what was it based on? It was based on the color of somebody's skin. Something that's not something that we are even able to control, right? So when there are so many discriminations and so much hatred in this world, how can we nurture the feeling of goodwill, something that's desired by all? Everybody wants goodwill from others, but why is it so difficult to give that to others? First step to understand is, how why does discrimination happen? It's because we think that what we're doing is the right thing to do, and how we're doing is the right way of doing it. So we limit our horizons just to our own specific lives, cultures, societies. We're not opening out to other people's ways of life, what other people consider as important. We're very limiting our horizons. We have built our own small universes in which we live in. And the first step to nurture goodwill is to expand our horizons, to which can happen through spirituality. It truly can. One example which Maharaji gives quite often during his spiritual discourses is when we are elevated from the ground. The example that he uses is, when you're when you, I'm sure all of you would have, or most of you would have traveled in an aircraft at one or the other point in your life. And just remember that instance when you entered the aircraft, you went to your seat and sat down. You had very limited vision. You could probably see the heads of the people who are in front of you. You had to move your head on the sides to see who's sitting next to you. You could probably peep out the window and see very small amount of what's outside part of the airport. But as the aircraft lifts up and you're taking off from the city, the aircraft was, you're seeing more of the city that you're leaving, then you see more of the state or the country that you're leaving, and soon you're several feet above the ground and you're cruising through mountains, rivers, oceans, valleys, plains, plateaus, and everything just merges into one another. There is no demarcation of the cities anymore. There is no demarcation of political boundaries of the different nations. You're just enjoying the beauty of God's creation, the scenic beauty that's right in front of you, and you're just awed at what you're looking at. What's happening is that your vision is increasing, your viewpoints about the world has changed, because you're seeing that, if you were in that city, you're not it's not just within that span. It's much more. The world is so much more than the small place that you're coming from. Same is the principle within spirituality as well. As we evolve spiritually, our understanding of God's consciousness in entire humanity increases. It becomes part of our beings. It's no longer something that others have experienced. We experience it within us, and when we do that, our vision horizons and understanding just is just so vast, and we are able to see that one thread that is going through every human being. And only then we can realize what the evolved spiritual masters of the past, or the saints and the seers, what level of evolution they would have reached to have goodwill towards others all the time. Right, they came into this world, and great saints came into this world, and what they said was that, through spiritual knowledge, know the word of God, the true name of God, and through that you can evolve yourself. You can find out, you can be godly in nature even yourself. In Indian scriptures, Hindu scriptures, there's this really beautiful verse which goes like, Sarve bhavantu sukhina, Sarve santu niramahi, Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, Ma kaschit dukhe bhag bhave. What this means is that those sages of the past who are wishing well to everybody, they didn't say, oh, I am writing this, so it should be, wishing well to my clan, my family, my neighborhood. No, they wished well for everybody across the world, right? Everybody. And wishing them good health, and that they don't have any sorrows in this world. This is a really powerful message which has been there. It's not something that we can't duplicate today in this world. It is possible through spiritual knowledge. And so many saints, evolved beings have come into this world to show us that path. To cite a few examples, we had Lord Buddha, who came, he came, and to all his disciples, he very strongly advised that they should develop the feeling of goodwill towards others. And how he demonstrated that in his life, one instance, because he did it several times, and one instance is when somebody threw a big rock at him, and it was about to hit him, but fortunately, just before it hit him, it shattered into small pieces, but a sliver hurt his foot and it started to bleed. And when he was tended to, he was lying down resting. Somebody asked him, Buddha, what are you doing lying down injured? Just trying to get a reaction. What does he feel about, knowing purposely that somebody had done this to him? What were he what was he feeling at that point? To which Lord Buddha replied, I am spreading goodwill to the entire world. This is a really good example, excellent example, in fact, of leading by example. In management and leadership literature, we hear about the concept of leading by example. And this is something that Lord Buddha demonstrated it through this instance. That I'm not lying here, thinking about how to punish that person and why would he have done it. Because he couldn't do anything else, because he's injured, he was, through his thoughts and spirituality, he is wishing well to the entire world. Another example is that of Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the first guru of Sikhs. And he's another person who propagated equality among mankind and traveled far and wide to share this message with everybody. And one of the things he started was the concept of langars, which is something that's even goes on to this day. If you go to any of the gurdwaras, you will find that they have these huge kitchens where they cook a lot of food, and whoever comes to the gurdwara is served food. But the way they are demonstrating, or propagating this equality, this point about equality which Guru Nanak Dev Ji talked about, is that everybody who has langar has to sit on the floor together with everybody else, from wherever they've come from, whichever religion they're from, whichever social strata they're from, whichever any differences, it doesn't matter. They have to sit on the floor with everybody else, and that's when they are served food. So it demonstrated something, the community is taking that forward even now. So we really need to understand that not keeping these just within the confines of certain customs and rituals, but also taking these into our lives. We have all heard about the painful crucifixion of Jesus Christ. At the time he was being crucified, and this is at the time, it's not a moment later, 10 minutes later, an hour later, the next day. At the time when he was being drilled, the nails were being hammered into his body. At that time, he prayed to God. He did not pray that God save me from what this is happening to me, save me from this pain, what these guys are doing to me. He wasn't thinking about themselves. The words that came out from his mouth, his prayers were for the people who were doing this to him, causing him so much pain. And the words were, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. Can we even imagine something like this in our lives? If somebody gives us a small scratch, they are our sworn enemies till the end of day, even if we've made up and we are friends again. But that instance will constantly remain in our head, that we should not be trusting this person because he or she hurt us in a certain way at that point of time. But here is such an evolved, spiritually evolved being who is wishing well to somebody who's doing such horrendous things to him, causing him so much pain. So all these examples demonstrate to us that goodwill is universal. All these spiritually evolved beings are from different eras. They're from different strata, social strata, hierarchy within the social structures. They're from different parts of the world as well. But yet they had a common message. They came to show the path of spirituality to man. They did not give up on peace and goodwill. They demonstrated to us that whatever they had is not external, because externally they differed in many ways, but all the things that they were are internal. That transformation and that spiritual evolution is something internal, it's not external. Goodwill begins inside, and it leads to bringing the body and mind into one frame. And that's possible through meditating upon the holy name of God, the true name of God. Only after that, everything falls into place, that we understand what is being talked about in the scriptures by these, what was taught by these evolved beings. And it's not something that, ended at a certain point of time. It's very true for us today as well. And just to illustrate from another of Maharaji's example, in terms of, there's nothing else to understand. So he gives this beautiful analogy of water. Water is its components are two molecule of hydrogen and one molecule of oxygen, which makes, sorry, two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen, which makes one molecule of water. If we've understood that aspect, then we've understood water in all forms, whether it's the glass, whether it's the water that you drink from a glass, whether it's the water that from which you'll make your tea, whether it's the water from which you'll make your coffee, whether it's the water that comes out of the taps, in the ocean, in the whether it's in the rivers, lakes, ocean, rainfall, or even in the snow, in the glaciers or the mountains, right? So that's the level of understanding we reach within spirituality as well, that just the way water is same wherever you go, same, similarly, that God's consciousness or God's, energy is same within each one of us. We may appear different, but we are truly same within us. And that's when goodwill stays with us throughout our lives. When we have experienced this, then only by understanding it we can actually, understand that, and have that goodwill towards everybody else. And only then we can truly also understand phrases like Vasudev Kutumbakam, which is another Sanskrit phrase, which simply means that world is one family. So I hope this has been, helpful in terms of linking up goodwill with spirituality, and how Manav Utthan Sewa Samiti has been working for several years to bring about that spiritual change within within us, so that goodwill can be spread more in this world. I'm sure Baiji will talk and will enlighten us more on the holy name of God. So I'll leave you with these thoughts. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much for your inspirational thoughts, Dr. Rita. You mentioned that many wise men have come into this world and have spread the goodwill. Um, we can definitely learn many valuable lessons, life lessons, that is. And one of them being Buddha, that you mentioned. And one of the most important aspect of his life is his name itself, which is Buddha. Bu meaning buddhi, which is intellect, and dha meaning dada, which is above everyone. So basically, Buddha means above his intellect. And on the other hand, us humans are once within the intellect. Whether something happens, whether nothing happens, we're always suffering. And spiritual revival is the only way that you can find that inner peace, right? So, next, we have a very famous song. Music, being the universal language of the mankind, it expresses that which cannot be said and on which it is impossible to be silent. So now, from Sikkim, known for its tranquility and beauty of the Himalayan mountains, we have Anish Pariyar, Rinchen Bhutia, Sanjana Rasaily, and Balsang Dorjee Tamang singing the very famous Sleeping Child. Please enjoy it. Thank you.
प्रेम से बोलिए श्री सद्गुरुदेव महाराज जी की जय। The Milky Way upon the heavens is twinkling just for you. And Mr. Moon, he came by to say goodnight to you. I'll sing for you, I'll sing for Mother. We're praying for the world and for the people everywhere. Gonna show them all we care. Oh, my sleeping child, the world's so wide, but you built your own paradise. That's one reason why I'll cover you, sleeping child. If all the people around the world, they had a mind like yours, we'd have no fighting and no wars. There'll be lasting peace on earth. If all the kings and all the leaders could see you here this way, they would hold the earth in their arms. They would learn to watch you play. Oh, my sleeping child, the world's so wild that you built your own paradise. There's one reason why I'll cover you, sleeping child. I'm gonna cover my sleeping child. Keep you away from the world so wild. Oh, my sleeping child, the world's so wild, but you built your own paradise. That's one reason why I'll cover you, sleeping child. Oh, my sleeping child, the world's so wild, but you built your own paradise. That's one reason why I'll cover you, sleeping child.
प्रेम से बोलिए श्री सदगुरुदेव महाराज जी की जय.
Thank you very much for your very soulful song. If we're talking about the music itself, the musicianship of this soulful song was completely precise and pristine and to the point of a perfect application. And let's not forget the meaning behind the song, which is very important. It epitomizes our ethos, that is, that all the children of the world are our children and we are a part of the global family. So, us adults have a duty and responsibility towards our children. And if we took a serious and personal interest in this responsibility, the world would be a peaceful place. So, without any further delay, we now have the second speaker of the show, Eduardo Herrera, also known by the nickname of Lalo, which means rich garden. He is from Goodwill in Mexico, and it is a home to numerous mainstays of Mexican culture, and mariachi music being one of those. So, Eduardo is an industrial engineer currently working at Nike, and he has been a part of Manav Utthan family since almost about 20 years ago. And since the very beginning, he has found this path of spirituality has resonated within himself, and he is very ecstatic, happy, and grateful for having this knowledge. So I would like to pass this on to Eduardo now. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Hello, everyone. Bear with my English. English is my second language. And I want to tell you a little bit how I came in contact with this knowledge and with this practice. and what it did to my life. So I think that's very useful for today. I think the first talk was super interesting because we were talking about goodwill, no? And this organization is nothing but goodwill. We are a lot of people that are super selfless, and they want to share this practice and this with everyone. So let me go back to the beginning of my life. So I think everything started when I was a child. I always was like a very dreamy person. I love fairy tales. I always were like reading fairy tales or watching the cartoons. And one of my favorite one was Aladdin. So I guess since I was a child, I was always interested in the Middle Eastern and Eastern cultures, me being from Mexico. So the first time I saw that story, that clicked with me. I used to believe that if I search in the right place, I will be able to find a genie, and that genie will make all my dreams come true. And I felt that I was on a quest. So on a quest to finding that lamp and that genie. So every time I was on street markets or when I was visiting my aunt's house or vintage stores, I was like trying to find that lamp because that was like my personal task. I needed to find it. I was always on the search and on the look. So little I knew that to achieve things in life, you must work hard and invest time and efforts to achieve them. So years went by. I grew up. I grew up as in a very Catholic family. So I did my studies in a Catholic school as well. So as you can imagine, I was very exposed to the Bible, to the scriptures, and the rites and rituals from the Catholic religion. However, since I was telling you that I had this feeling that there has to be more. I was always in that search of that extra, that something else besides religion, besides life. So I used to believe that energy were always around us, and there should be a way to get in touch with that energy or to feel and experience that energy. So I used to go to metaphysical lectures or feng shui workshops. I even do Ashtanga yoga. So I always was on that search, right? So it happens once that I got invited to a lecture. They told me there's this great monk coming from India. You should come. He is super enlightened. You will love his talk. So I did. I went. I felt very drawn to that. So I went there, and the minute I saw Mahatmaji, I felt an attraction that I cannot describe. The only way I can describe it is like when you have a magnet and you approach that magnet to an iron item, and that iron item immediately goes to the magnet. That's how I felt. I felt like I needed to be with him. I needed to be as close to him as possible. Every word he was saying was very, very interesting for me. So the other thing that caught my attention when I met Mahatmaji, besides this attraction, is that somehow I thought that he was not human. He seemed for me that he was not from this world. Of course, not that he was not a human, but his attitude, his kindness, the way he spoke, there were features that I've never seen in a human being. So one of the first stories that he shared with us was the following one. So bear with me. So the story goes like this. Once a king of an immense land was wandering around his kingdom, and he was walking on the seashore. So he was very happy, minding his own business. So then he trips over what appeared to be a rock. So the king reached out to remove the rock from the path, and then he noticed that it was not a rock. So he held the object in his hands and he started removing the sand, and then he realizes it was a lamp, an old lamp. So he continued rubbing it to uncover all the sand, and then wow, a genie appeared in front of him. So the genie presents himself to him by saying, I have phenomenal cosmic powers. Don't be fooled by my tiny house where I live. I am very, very powerful. With these powers that I have, I can make all your wishes come true. And the only thing is that you have to be aware what you wish for, because that you're wishing, I can grant it, but it can lead you to a lot of hurt. So be very mindful of what you wish. And then the king asked him, what do you mean? So then the genie explained, I am very powerful and I can fulfill every desire, regardless of what the end fruit of that desire will come to your life, I can grant to you. The only thing that I will tell you is that if you run out of wishes, I will have to eat you up. This is that I promise. I can fulfill every desire that you have, but if you have no more desires, I will eat you up. So then the king thought, I have such a vast land. All my people have many desires, many requests. There's no way that I will run out of tasks and desires to request from this genie. So it happened like this. The king will command something, and then within a short time, the genie will say, it's done. Many years passed like this until one day the king ran out of any task, like he had no more things for the genie to do. So he was super afraid that the genie would eat him up. So he tried to hide from him, but of course, because the genie was very smart and he has a lot of powers, he found him. And then the genie told him, I will eat you up because you have nothing to do and you have no request for me. And then the king told him, please, please have mercy on me. I command you to rest. This is the command that I give you. Please rest. And then the genie told him, no, you cannot fool me. I cannot rest. I have to do something. I am very powerful. I cannot be sitting on nothing to do. So I have to eat you up. And then the king asked him, please let me go to my master and ask for advice. And this is super important because in our lives we have to have someone that is that has wisdom, and we have to have someone that we can trust. So always we can go to that person and ask for advice, and that person should be our master. So then the king went to his master. He explained the entire situation, and then the master whispered something to his ear, and then the king went back to the genie. So the king told the genie, I have now something to give you. I have something to command you. So please go and find in the forest or in my kingdom the tallest palm tree you can find. So the genie did. So then the genie said, okay, here is the tallest palm tree I found. So now the king command, please plant it in the center of the garden and make sure the roots are very stable. So the genie did. So now go to the top of that palm tree, and then the genie went all the way up. Stay there and then come back. So the genie come down the palm tree. So do this. You have to do this until I give you a new command. Wow, the genie exclaimed. You have conquered me. Who gave you this advice? What kind of mind designed this trap for me? And I said, wow, this is super simple. And now the king has conquered the genie, all powerful. And then Mahatmaji said to all of us, that genie, that genie of my story is your own minds. Your mind is very powerful. It can get you the desires come true. But if the mind has nothing to do, it will devour you with the regrets of the past, worries of the present, and thoughts of the future. I was blown away. I had an epiphany because this was the genie I was looking for my entire life. So that really resonated within me. And since that moment, I was certain of something. I wanted to be as close as possible to this monk. Then Mahatmaji continued the lecture and the satsang, explaining that in order to achieve that, we have to get mind control. And in order to get mind control, he was teaching or he was giving us meditation techniques. And this meditation practice teaches us how to keep the mind under our control. This technique teaches us to pause and still our minds utilizing this breath. Utilizing this breath like the palm tree to go up and to go down. So everything sounded like magic for me. Everything was so appealing and dear to my heart. But then, like my mind start to perceive roadblocks, and these roadblocks appear to me in front of culture. I saw that the culture between him being from India and me being from Mexico were slightly different, right? So the mind starts to see these tricks or to detect these differences, right? Like for example, people were making vows to Mahatmaji, and for me that was very strange because I've never seen in my life some human doing a bow in front of another one. I used to see it in the movies, but not in real person. And I say, yeah, I want to present respect to this person, but why the bow? No, or for example, he was eating chapatis and not the Mexican tortillas, and we were saying, no, Mahatma, try the corn tortillas. These are very good, the same as chapati. But he was used to eating chapatis, and I say, wow, we are different, right? Like the culture is different. And then I started to go in daily to these lectures, to this satsang, and my family started to question me, what are they doing to you? Are they brainwashing you? Are they trying to impose a new religion for you? And I start to think about it and say, really, what's going on? I've been going for months now. I really love everything, but everything is slightly different. And then in one of those lectures, because again, during these lectures, and this is the magic that I have experienced, that in these lectures, in this satsang, all your questions get answered. Like the first story I heard from him was a genie, and I always fell in love with the Aladdin story. So for me, that click. Now I have these questions, and during this satsang, those questions were answered for me. So Mahatma says that this technique of mind control is universal. This technique is not that it has a branded or is not branded as Hindu or as a Mexican. It's universal. It's like the sun, right? Like when the sun comes up, it shines for all of us. It gives us light and warmth, regardless of our nationality, creed, or religion. So like a flower in a garland. So the flower may be different with different colors, different counts of petals, different characteristics. But in that garland, we have one element that is the same, and that's the thread that is unifying the entire garland. Or in a simple, more nowadays example, like a Wi-Fi in the coffee shop. So the Wi-Fi doesn't care of your social status, the creed, your religion. The only thing that the Wi-Fi in that coffee shop cares is that you have a device and that you have in that device the password to connect to the Wi-Fi. So that's as simple as that. This practice is universal. It doesn't care of anything. It doesn't care of nationalities. We are the ones that create discrimination, right? Like Rita was telling us about Black Lives Matters and how we as human beings are complicating things. And we have been doing this for many years. But this knowledge doesn't. It comes and breaks all those barriers, and it comes and simplifies our lives, right? So as I was mentioning, the only thing that we need is a device and the password to connect to that Wi-Fi. So that device is our own bodies. So to have this body, this human body, is a right and is a privilege. Um, and with this human body, we can access our inner selves to attain this mind control and to attach with our minds to that life energy. So imagine there's a life energy that is making us breathe. It's a life energy that is giving us the energy to think, the energy to speak, the energy to move. And that energy, we can perceive it with our own minds. The only thing we have to do is put that password into this device. So with this technique, we can get that genie under our control, and we will be able to achieve everything because this genie is very, very, very powerful. So imagine when we are in the human, when we are in our mother's home, we're not Christians at that time. We're not Muslims. We are only human beings, like being formed and growing as human beings. So when we are born, that's when we start complicating things. So God is universal and God is energy, and that energy really, really loves us and wants to be close to us. So the password, as I was saying, is the secret word, the secret code that that we have to enter in order to access that full potential. So that password is revealed by the owner of the coffee shop, right? Or the people that is in the waiter, or the people that is in control of that coffee shop. So those are those people. This Mahatma had the right to give me that password to access the full potential. So it's like a computer. When we have a computer, of course, the computer is very, very powerful. You can do a lot of operations, a lot of many things when you have the programs. But once you connect that computer to the Wi-Fi, you increase the potential. You have access to a lot of information, to a lot of things. So that's, for me, that's what Mahatma Ji offered to me. He increased the potential of this device, but by sharing this secret word, this secret password to access this full potential of this device. So now in the present, I'm very fortunate that I could understand the universality of this practice, and that I was very fortunate to receive this practice when I was at 17 years old. So since that day, this practice has become my lighthouse, my beacon. So I never feel alone because I know that God is inside me, and it really is inside of every one of us. So whenever I'm alone, I can always go inside and access that full potential, because God is love and God is everyone's companion. So he's always giving us advice, and he's always putting persons, or the right persons, to give us direction and to keep us in the right track. So that energy is universal. That energy that gives me life is the same energy that gives life to every one of you, or to all the plants, or to all the animals. So that energy is present in everything. The only thing that we have to do is take that leap and go to our inner self. So I highly suggest that whenever you identify roadblocks in this path, solve them, because it's worth it. Because when we understand the value of this practice, the value of mind control, we will be able to achieve a lot of greatness, a lot of happiness, and of course, we will be entering this huge family of Universal Manav, where we are all here listening. So that's what I wanted to share. I think it's 200 people in this call, so I feel very fortunate that everyone get a time to listen to my story, to listen what I have to share. And please access that genie, get in touch with that genie, and get the full potential of this device by attaining the goal of our human lives, that is going inside and controlling our minds, to get all our wishes come true. So that's what I had to share today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eduardo, for sharing your wonderful experience. And you mentioned genie, right? Finding that genie, you were looking for that genie. And we all question in our life at some point that what is it that am I striving for? What is it that I'm striving for? And the answer to it is that everything is within us, and life is on. And if you take all the barriers away, which is not allowing you to experience this, we actually need to have a resolve, right? But because we're so fickle, we keep changing our minds every 2 other minutes. You are actually only a moment away from truth. Time is a quantity, and only when there is a distance to travel. But when you have a resolve and realize that truth is within yourself, you do not have to travel a long distance. And like Edwater mentioned, it's about finding that master who will give you that password. So this is when you become enlightened. So now we are back with yet another song, and there is no truer truth obtainable by a man than that which comes of music. Sonam Pem from Bhutan the land of Thunder Dragon, known for its great culture and heritage. She will be singing The Smile of Karuna. So please enjoy. I'd like to move this platform to the music now. Thank you.
Jai Shri Sachidanand. My name is Sunampim and I'm from Bhutan. I'll be singing an English bhajan called Smile of Karuna, and this bhajan beautifully describes the smile of Guru Maharaji. Do you hear the cries? Do you see the tearful eyes? The cries that defend, the tears that blind. Are we listening? Do we see? Do we care? Let me sit by your side, breathe as you breathe, with deep listening, seeing and understanding. May our hearts be light, may our love be wide. Let's free our minds. There's a smile that shines through the tears, smile of understanding, calmness and strength, smile that receive, embrace and transform. For the gift of love and fearlessness is the smile of Karuna. Do you hear the cry? Do you see the tearful eyes? The cries that defend, the tears that blind. Are we listening? Do we see? Do we care? Let me sit by your side, breathe as you breathe, with deep listening, seeing and understanding. May our hearts be light, may our love be wide. Let's free our minds. There's a smile that shines through the tears, smile of understanding, calmness and strength, smile that receive, embrace and transform. For the gift of love and fearlessness is the smile of Karuna. There's a smile that shines through the tears, smile of understanding, calmness and strength, smile that receive, embrace and transform. For the gift of love and fearlessness is the smile of Karuna.
Thank you very much for mesmerizing us with your soulful voice. And the song talked about compassion, karuna, which is understood to mean a active sympathy or willingness to bear pain of others. And there is a quote by Dalai Lama. According to him, compassion is an aspiration, it's a state of mind, it's wanting others to be free from suffering. It's not passive, it's not empathy alone, but rather an empathetic altruism that actively strives to free others from sufferings. And genuine compassion must have both wisdom and loving kindness. So, without any further delay, we now have the key speaker of the session, Mahatma Nirmoyi Baiji. She is a realized soul who is a disciple of Sri Sadbhawana Maharaj the spiritual head of Manav Utthan Sewa Samiti, Haridwar, India. Mahatma Nirmoyi Baiji is from Queen of Hill, Darjeeling, and has been rendering spiritual discourse, meditational practices, and service in the society for the past 12 years and is presently in Siliguri. I would like to welcome our respected Mahatma Nirmoyi Baiji from Siliguri, located on the banks of Mahananda River and foothills of the Himalayas. Thank you very much.
गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः His Holiness Sri Guru Maharaji, Reverend all saints and sages, dear premies and the seekers, the warm Jai Sri Sachidanand to all of you watching this virtual congregation and staying in different countries of the world. It's really, I'm very delighted and it's a pleasure to connect you all in this Universal Revival Journey program for the spiritual awakening, for the spiritual quest in our life. Just now, we all heard the speeches from the former speakers. It was very good, excellent, inspiring, and very, of course, relevant in our existing time. So these are the human values and the virtues that we have to inculcate, we have to imbibe in your life, just like the humanity, goodwill, peace, love, compassion, coordination, cooperation, the harmony. These are the qualities that really beautifies our life. So it's very, very important to have those qualities in our life. Just it is rightly said that if there is righteousness or goodwill in a person, there will be beauty in the behavior of a person. If there is behavior, if there is beauty in the behavior of a person, there will be harmony at home. If there is harmony at home, there will be, the order in the nations. And if there is order in the nations, there will be peace in the world that we are living. So this broad reason to establish world peace, to establish universal peace, actually it starts from an individual, from a person, that is from you and me. So it is said that if you want to see and if you want to bring the change in the society, in the community where you live, that starts from you. That should be starts from within us. So it's very, very important that we have to inculcate those values in our life. So in this present context, to save this world from the global pandemic and all this that we are witness today, so it is very important. It is said that, rightly said that, the person is great, who saved the world, who saved the humanity, than who wants to destroy it. Once I want to share you the very story from Prince Siddhartha. That time he was sitting in the garden. Suddenly a swan fell on the ground. He went there and found that that swan was injured, wounded, bleeding, and he nourished him, he fed him water, food, everything. And that time, the person who hit that son came there and claimed that it is my son because I want to kill it. I want to, I want to have it. So the Prince Siddhartha said, no, it's not yours now because you want to kill it, you want to destroy its life. So it is now, it's mine because I have now saved it. So the argument started between them. At last, they went in the court of the king, and king heard all their arguments. And finally, even the king could not, decide whether the son belongs to. So he said that now, son himself will decide whether he wants to go. So he placed the son in between the Siddhartha and the Devadatta, and in between the son was staying and standing. And when he looked at the Devadatta, who hit him, who wants to kill him, and looking at him, he just started feeling that I was flying in the sky in the open air. He hit me, he injured me, and so he turns back towards Siddhartha, Prince Siddhartha, and look at him, and he found that he saved my life. He nourished me. He saved my life. So he straightly went in front of Prince Siddhartha. So from that day, it is said that the saver is greater than the destroyer. So it's very important that we have to inculcate those great values in our life. So as the program, the revival journey itself, it is going on from few months. Actually, the life itself is a journey for us. Like the same Prince Siddhartha, that boy afterwards became Lord Buddha. Though how, which incident, which event that in his life came and totally transformed his life. The making of Gautam Buddha, if we look him that in his time, he saw the four saints, old man, a sick person, dead body, and a meditative, doing meditation, a saint. And seeing this for the scenes, he transformed his life. How he questioned himself within, seeing sick person, the dead one, and the old person. I think this is what is the phenomena behind this all. What the changes that we see in our life, in our body, that brings by what, the energy. He wants to know the reality, he wants to know the truth. And to get the answer, we all know that he renounced the world, and he did so much penance. Then after long penance, after getting the spiritual knowledge, he attained the enlightenment. And after attaining enlightenment, he shared this experience to the whole world, and said that whatever I have achieved, whatever I have experienced, everyone can experience, everyone can achieve. And again, he said that the journey that I had it started from me and ended up to me. So these are the experience that he gained within his soul, within his, body itself. So now the question is that, this kind of, the teachings is not something new for us. Since from the ages, great masters, prophets, delivered this message to the whole mankind to know man thyself. Means what? See, we know ourselves that man know thyself means we know our identity, our body, and the identities that is related to us. Any kinds of the identities we know, but they are emphasizing to know what more about us. That is something if we see our body that is functioning, that is not functioning itself. There is some energy behind it, within it, that gives us the energy to function like that. This message to know man thyself It is being eternal message to the whole mankind. See, if we look back to the history and the human evolution, human history, and the human, the culture, evolution, everything, we found that Rig Veda is regarded as the most oldest ancient literature or the scripture of the world. Now it is and cited by the Yajurveda, Atharva Veda, Sham Veda, and many Upanishads are there where there are profound, immense collection of wisdom and knowledge that time they gained in their life during the meditation period of time, and they shared to the all mankind so that the next generation can get the clue, can get the guidance to move forward in the spiritual world. So these are the very important thing that the message that we have to accept in our life to to evolve our soul, to enlarge, to expand our vision. It's very important. Just like we are living in this modern technological world where we see so much of discoveries, invention. People are excelling in many fields. They're exploring new things, new innovations are coming up. But see, they are all are done by a living person who is alive, who is speaking, who is doing all activities, living in this world, walking, doing anything, is done by what? Not by the dead one, the person who is living. So the question is, by what power, by what energy that we are living in this world? Now the question is, see, actually we feel that by anyhow we feel that body itself functioning. No, it's not that. It's not. It is our wrong conception. There is something within the body that energizes our body, that energizes our mind, that energizes our intellect. Something is there. To know is the path to knowledge, path to self-realization. So about this here, there is an analogy in the Upanishad. Once in the body, all the organs get a discussion to be the supreme in the body. So they all decided, let's go sometime from the body for a certain period of time, and let's see what happened to the body. So they all decided turn-wise, all the organs started to go away from the body. So the now first turn was of eye. Eye went away from the body, and after a week, let's say after a week, when it come back, the body is functioning like a blind man. Like a blind man we see in the society, in surrounding, people who is blind, walking, doing its, living the life. No, the person doesn't see scratches. And then the term comes from the ear. Hearing power went and came back after a week and found that body is functioning like a deaf person. And the same way, the mouth, the speaking power that from which we speak, went away from the body for a week and came back, found that the body is functioning like a dumb. That we see around we know all the story of Helen Keller, who was deaf, dumb, and blind, but still, no, we know all the life story of Helen Keller, who was deaf, dumb, and blind, but she proves to the world that we all know the story. And likewise, the hand could go away from the body, legs similarly, but still the body is functioning. We see in the society people sitting in the wheelchair, like recently the Muniba Majari, he is the bold, he is in a wheelchair, but anyhow he is doing lots of doing things. She's in the wheelchair, but no, she's doing lots of good things, motivational speeches around the world. She is doing. She's now the ambassador of the Pakistan, no, doing good job motivating the other people also. So these are the things that with the absence of certain organs in our body, we can manage our life. And at last, finally, so the spirit goes away from the body, that moment, the eye stops seeing, ear stops hearing, mouth stops speaking, legs and hands stop functioning. So all the organ prayed and to the spirit, to the soul, don't leave the body, don't leave us. Now we all regarded you as the supreme authority in the body, accept you as a king of this body. So it is really very important to know that we are not only the body, someday, somehow it is perish away, you know. But we have to understand that what is that energy, what is that consciousness within us that energize the body to function. There are so many complicated, the systems are there within the body is functioning, medically, medical science are wondering except to see the functioning, the systems, complicated system of the body, how it is functioning. And the mind that we think, we imagine, we do lots of things with the help of mind power, and not intellect by what we do lots of things in the world, and reasoning power, and this all, mind, body and intellect, this all, assets that we have is energized by that power that we call the soul, that is the subject of universal life. To realize it, to experience it, to understand it is the spiritual knowledge that we have to understand it. Just like as Shri Guru Maharaji, to understand it more clearly, used to give a very good example in the Sadbhawana Sammilan in his divine discourses in satsang, that at home we have lots of electric equipments, the fan, computer, a mobile phone, freeze, uh, anything that we have in the home, iron, anything. And that is all connected by that, the energy, that electricity, electricity is flowing in every equipment and it is functioning. Fan is giving us the smooth air, the heater is giving us the hot air, and anything, computer, television, anything. But if there is everything at home, if there is no electricity, what happens? That all we know, they all stop to function. We have everything at home, but if there is no electricity, in the same way, dear parents, we have this body, we have this beautiful gift of God, this life, this human body, but it is not functioning itself. There is something mysterious, there is something unseen, very powerful energy that is energizes whole, the system, the body, mind, and intellect. So in this context, I remembering, the in that was I was in the college time. I attend a satsang program there, and that time Mahatma Harisha Baiji had come. I remember that he gave us a very good satsang that day, inspired us a lot. And that time she told that there is an ocean, ocean, and if you pour the water of the ocean into a bottle, into the bottle. Now that water of the ocean, now it's confined within a bottle. It is limited within a bottle. And it is separated from the bottle now, but it is within the bottle now, it is separated, it is confined within. So again, if you want to merge the water into the ocean, what we have to do, either we have to break the bottle or we have to pour the water of the bottle into the ocean. In the same way, we are all the part and parcel of that supreme energy that is within us in the form of soul, in the form of spirit, to know our bigger self than the body, beyond mind, beyond intellect. There is something that we have to search, we have to quest, we have to reach that level of understanding, reach that level of realization. That is the purpose of spiritual knowledge. And getting this, we really get something uncomparable, something very, the celestial, the bliss that we can realize in our life. Just as, say, if we are sitting in a room in a room. We are sitting in the room, and we see nothing, because we are sitting in a room with four walls, the door with closed up, everything. But when we come out from the room, we see around, the nature, the trees, the gardens, everywhere. We come out from the room, we see, red pictures, around. And when we go up in the, let's see, second floor, and we see the distance, scenes also, the neighboring villages, the rivers. Yeah, we get to start to see all these things. And when we elevate more in certain, for example, we move on upward, and if you see from the, let's say, in the roof of the 10th floor building, we see the bigger picture around, because we are evolving, we are elevating. And if you travel in a helicopter, we see the more bigger picture around. And if we travel in the plane, we see the more, vast, the picture of this magnificent creation of the God. And if you see in the space, if you travel in the space, in the satellite, we see, geographically speaking, this Earth as a blue planet, which is rotating, which is revolving in the solar system in its own orbit. That's where we are living. That's where we are living in this earth, in this magnificent, in the vast creation of the world. So to understand it, because that great sages, that great prophets realized that broad vision of the life, that higher vision of they realized, and they set an example for us, so that we can move forward in our spiritual search, in our spiritual, realm. In the same way, that we have to understand this. And they said that the Vasudeva Kutumbakam, the whole world is my family, because that entity that is, sustaining us in our body, that is sustaining the whole creation as a whole, actually. And when we understand it in our microcosmic form, in our miniature form, the energy that is functioning this whole world that is created by God. So it's very important to know, have a deeper understanding, a depth understanding of the spiritual knowledge, of the discourses that we all have, that we are living in this beautiful creation of the God, that it is said that if you want to see the power of the God, if you want to see the power of the God, you have to see the sun above in the sky. That, so powerful, the solar energy that is giving us light from eternal, from that is from time eternal, it is giving light to the whole world. So powerful, the solar, the energy that we are getting, because we are getting, in the nature. And so have we ever thanked for that. And if you want to see the glory of the God, see the full moon, how beautiful that, night. In the full light, we see something very, celestial beauty that creates by the, moonlight. That is not this all, by these are all man-made. These are the God created. We wonder seeing the, the man-made construction around the world, how men are, constructing so much of, very marvelous, structure, that we have the seven wonders of the world. We think so wonder, men made by the man-made. But ever we, experience, ever we thank for the God that made by God Himself this whole creations, this whole magnificent creation, and this body. And if you want to see the miracle of the God, it is said that go in front of the mirror and see yourself. This body, functioning in it's very complicated, but it is functioning. How it is functioning, by what power that is, within us, that is functioning, that we are getting by the, grace of God Almighty, this human life, which is regarded as a crown of creation. Why it is said so? It is not that for that material acquisition that we acquire in our life, that's for only that it is regarded as the crown of creation. Not for that only, but for the spiritual awakening, for the spiritual experiences that we gain, that we have, many kinds of, ignorance, many kinds of misconception in our mind, actually, layer of ignorances are there. First, we have to accept our ignorance. Yes, we are ignorant. We are, unknown about many things in the world. Still, we have to explore new things. Still, we are in this process. So for that, Sri Guru Maharaj used to say that, treat into the spiritual path to know more about ourselves, to more of this. This is the, the spiritual knowledge that we have to understand, we have to realize. And this spiritual knowledge, and in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna said, this knowledge is sovereign science, supremely holy, and attained by virtue, easy to practice, and is eternal. And this is for all humankind, irrespective of caste, creed, nationality. It is a universal, because this is the eternal, the internal process that is related to our brain. Related to our brain, because, all the people, wherever we live, wherever we stay, breathe. There is no difference between that. Maybe there are externally we have many differences, but to unite the people together in a global family as a, in Vasudeva Kutumbakam as a family, the spiritual, the reality, the spiritual knowledge that we have to understand. And we understand when we go to the living master, because really a true living master gives us an understanding to understand these all things in a clear way, to accept this in a clear way. So must go, because since from the ages, great prophets, great masters come in this world to guide, to show the way of, the spiritual path, show the way of devotion, show the way of goodness in our life. So it's very important to know all about it, about the spiritual knowledge, and related to this all things, we must have a true spiritual master in our life to get the knowledge. Because as Sri Guru Maharaji, and we used to say that, see, if you want to learn the music, you have to go to a music teacher, because we don't know about the music, how to, sing, how to, anything we don't know, unknown about the music. But when we go to the music teacher, he makes us known about the related things about the music. And if you want to learn the dance, we have to go to the dance teacher. If you want to learn the sports, any kind of sports, we have to go to the coach, someone who is well known in that field. In the same way, if you want to know ourselves in a true sense, not as a body, but within it, something is there within us, to explore within, to discover within our true reality, to true real form, we must go in the company of the living master to know about ourselves. And knowing that, we understand that there is nothing is, just like there is only one sun that is giving us the light to the whole world. There is only moon that is giving light. There is only one ear, this earth where there is only one thing that is similar by created by the God. So we have to very much thankful for giving this opportunity, for giving this golden opportunity, this human life, and we have to imbibe those great values in our life. And with this word, I would like to conclude my speech. And I just, we all heard the speeches from the speakers. See, listening is very important. Listening is very good. But more than listening is to think over it, whatever we have heard. Whatever we are taught, we have to think over it and try to implement those values, implement those practice in our daily life, in our life to get a benefit. So with this word, uh, and finally, the singers from the Sikkim and the Bhutan, they sing present a very beautiful bhajans and the song for us. So thankful to them. So with this word, I would like to conclude my speech. May God bless you. Hari Om.
Heartfelt gratitude and thank you to Nirmoli Baiji for enlightening us with your divine words. And it has been a privilege to have your presence here today in this platform. And I am sure that everyone here will take away at least some small gem from today's session of Universal Revival Journey. And hopefully, it will enhance some aspect of your life. And like Baiji said, let's transform ourselves, keeping Lord Buddha into mind. And our spiritual identity is to understand that we're not this body, but we are a pure spiritual being belonging to eternal, belonging to blissful, and belonging to spiritual world. So now I would like to request Nirmoi Baiji to end this session with a prayer and 2 minutes meditation. Thank you.
Let's now together pray to the God Almighty. त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धु च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखं भवेत्. Now let meditate for a while for the boldness. Shri Guru Maharaji ki jai. Thank you.
We have now come to an end of this lovely program, and I'm sure that some of you may have questions from this session. However, we cannot answer all your questions due to a short span of time. But you can email us at virtualsatsang2020@gmail.com, and all the information will be provided on the screen. We also have Manav Dharam Facebook, Manav Dharam Instagram, and Manav Dharam YouTube. Finally, I'd like to welcome the whole team who have done a tremendous job in broadcasting this talk show. And a huge thank you to all the amazing bhajan teams and all the incredible speakers we've had today to make this day a success. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank you all for attending and partaking in this program. Thank you very much. Jai Sri Sachidanand.